Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the money. We follow the money. We really follow the money. We just don't look for a little bit of money and say, hey, that's the only money you should be looking for. Just stop looking at that little pile of money. That's the only pile of money. And then dishonestly suggest that we've led together to the only pile of money you need to know. Follow the money means following the money, following the trail, looking for the biggest pile of money. Every person that is not looking for the bigger pile of money than what they've already followed the trail of breadcrumbs to is not looking for the money. The only way to follow the money is to keep looking for bigger and bigger piles of money. Every single channel that has ever said they follow the money is lying. If they have not done their due diligence to find bigger and bigger piles of money. I am going to hijack that phrase. I'm going to make everyone sorry that they've pushed that phrase, because everyone that has ever said follow the money that doesn't somehow find the same piles of money, which we found, is lying. They are lying. They are deceiving. Okay, enough of that. George Soros. What comes to mind when you hear George Soros? George Soros, from what I know, is that he's a man who, as of current date, November 11th, 2025, is in his sunset years. He's elderly. Good for him. Lucky him. Gets to live to be old. He is, I think, Austrian or Hungarian, ethnically, right? Whatever that means, Caucasianish. And his religion is Judaism, I believe. And there's a backstory about George Soros regarding alleged stories that he told, maybe to get out of a very bad situation that he and other family members, or just him, was in World War II, potentially leading him to maybe have been in a concentration camp or something like that, or imprisoned, slave labor, and he decided to sell some people out. Now, how much of that is true is, I'm sure, very interesting. And if that is what people wish to pursue, fine, go for it. And I see some good responses coming in here. I'm going to read them. But it's almost a little bit besides the fact, okay? I'm simply saying what I've heard, as inaccurate and as general as it might be. And what I've heard is that George Soros gives tremendous quantities of money. He's become very rich as an investor. Tremendous quantities of money to global and liberal causes that he pushes for global communism, global unrest. And then they do something which I always find to be incredibly disgusting and disgraceful. You take photos of people and you do close-ups and you magnify the imperfections on their skin. And, you know, it is what it is, okay? Even the people who age the most beautiful and graceful, we're just not our youthful selves anymore, physically anyways, even if we feel it. And I think it's stupid low-hanging fruit when you zoom in on people and just make them look like they're just, you know, popping out all over the place, and make a suggestion that there's some sort of evil being harbored in them by using their age against them, and close-up photography and so on. And even if they are bad people, I just don't like that, okay? But you see some really, you know, horrifying photos of George Soros going around and his pursuit of some globalism, etc. So this is what I know, and the fact that he's Jewish and he has money is, of course, has been used as signs of Jewishness control over the United States. And, of course, he's been linked with various conspiracy theories across the board. And that's kind of what I know. I'm going to read a few things that you guys have written here. So Christy said, he passed down the family business, quote unquote, to his son Alex. Oh, Christy, don't spoil it for everyone. Christy's, I think, ahead of the curve. But yes, his son Alex is much younger than you would expect, given the age of George Soros, Alex Soros. So Alex Soros will inherit, presumably, a lot of money. And even if he inherited nothing, he's being put into positions to make a lot of money. So he'll be fine. George Soros is, I presume, a billionaire many times over. I'm not going to read the last part again because I think it's important to kind of not highlight it too much just yet. I think his entire history is made up. Possible. He's a Rockefeller agent of chaos. Maybe. Again, this isn't about right or wrong answers. This is just about, and my audience is among the most aware, the most educated, the most open-minded, and the most balanced audiences in the world. I think some of the crazier things may not show up here. Sort of like when I had that show about why do you think 9/11 happened? Okay. The goal of that show was not to get to why 9/11 happened. The goal of the show is to show how much disagreement it is, the variety of stories, the motivations, the incongruency, and how ridiculous it is that, we're still there 20-something years later. So, Sobe, last night I was reading that Soros is a cover for the City of London stuff. Looking for a link for what it's worth. Hello, Vilma. My knowledge on Follow the Money is limited. Wish I had access to databases with financial info. Great answer, Vilma. That's I highlight that phrase because most of the liars and the fakes use that phrase a lot. I don't actually like using the phrase, to be honest with you. But a great example is the Village People impersonator, Ian Carroll. He says that phrase over and over again. And it's used to suggest that what he is offering is absolute truth. Yeah, following the money, okay, where is the biggest pile of money? What's the most important thing behind something? That's true. But when you keep saying it over and over again, and then you constantly present, here's a pile of money here, and then never suggest that there's piles of money way bigger than that, you're misleading people. So it's a tactic that's used by the worst traders in social media, the worst traders in independent journalism, the worst traders in citizen journalism. They use that phrase extensively to suggest that they've arrived at the truth. I don't use the phrase because, the things that we are talking about here are so big that they transcend money. I don't even know how to calculate them. How do you even put a value on being at the top of the stack and having power and control over the hunt and the information of the reverse engineering of the human genome? What's that worth? 100 million? A billion? Trillion? What's that even worth? 500 trillion? You can't put a number on it. We're getting to things that are beyond money. So, anyways, that's why I bring up that phrase a lot. Okay. This is the Owen Report. He's got 7,200 subscribers, 3 times as much as me. This is a day old, and it's got 5,000 views and 591 thumbs up. So obviously it's a hot topic. Is that the guy who used to be on InfoWars? Maybe that's why I recognize him. Okay, yeah, that's why I recognize him. That's Owen Schroyer. So his video that's going viral right now is MAGA Base. That's the MAGA, Make America Great Again, or the populist movement, some would call it, or the right movement, even though there's no such thing as movements and people who are naturally decentralized. MAGA base, demoralized over Israel.
I wanted to start with this from Mark Mitchell and Rasmussen reports because they are the most accurate pollsters. But he's basically saying in a more simply put way, let's say less characters than me. Went to an event tonight, talked to 3 different people with Zoomer kids. They're demoralized. So what have I been saying about the social lives? What have I been saying about my experiences out there in the real world, in the social world? Basically, he's putting it simply, they're demoralized, but that's basically what I've been saying. This is real, folks. And anybody that talks politics with their friends knows exactly what we're talking about here. People are demoralized. They're disenfranchised. They're losing hope. They're losing trust. They're losing faith, however you want to put it. They're struggling, whatever the deal is. This is the real world.
They're demoralized over Israel. The entire Republican Party and the vast majority of support for Trump right now is demoralized, crumbled, and fractured because of Israel. Nonstop talk about Israel, a belief that Israel controls everything in the United States, every office, every company, every technology, every patent, that Israel is responsible for the drug epidemic, that Israel was responsible for COVID-19, that Israel did 9/11, that Israel shot JFK, that Israel controls all the media, that Israel controls the internet, that Israel controls the world. They control everything you think, everything you hear, everything you eat, everything you are is all Israel, and pedophiles and Netanyahu and Trump and Musk and money from Israel, etc. I'm serious. Now, if Israel had 1.4 billion people and was on track to have the largest GDP in the world within the next 10 or 12 years, as India is, it would still be freaking stupid to say that. But it's even more stupid when you just look at the size of Israel, you consider their population, their demographics, and the fact that they are almost not even in the top 50 GDP of nations on earth. It's impossible for it to be true. Now, the Republican Party, which includes many people that harbor deep, deep, deep conspiracies, or encouraged to believe, anyways, conspiracies that Jews are behind every tree ready to take your money. It's freaking stupid. Love to host conspiracies about George Soros. And George Soros is connected with Nazis. George Soros working for the Bank of England. George Soros United Nations. George Soros Jews. George Soros pedophiles. George Soros Israel. George Soros DNC. George Soros Republican Party. George Soros 9/11. George Soros COVID-19. And then you realize that George Soros' son is married to one of the most trusted confidants of Hillary Clinton, Uma Abedin, who's proudly and loudly half Indian. So why does the topic of India influence in the George Soros family ever come up? Now, I know it's a recent marriage, but I believe they've been dating for a while. Alex Soros is hooked up with Uma Abedin. Uma Abedin goes way back with Hillary Clinton's State Department. When it came time for the gefilte fish email, you know, about some tax on gefilte fish, it was Uma Abedin, Hillary Clinton, and the man who became the ambassador, the United States ambassador to India next, Richard Verma, who was the deputy head management of the Hillary Clinton State Department and the first Obama administration, an administration which was predominantly focused on building relationships with India. How did this never come up? Why is it that COVID-19 broke out in a district in the state of Washington where the elected United States federal representative, Congresswoman, was born in India? Jayapal, is that her last name? I'm sorry, sometimes get the news confused. No one ever noticed this? I have a photo for you that will just shock you. Or maybe it wouldn't shock you. Maybe you would expect it. Almost every single tech company right now in the United States has an Indian CEO. Did you know that? I thought we celebrated diversity, but apparently we don't. Whether it's Deloitte, whether it's Vimeo, whether it's Google, whether it's Wayfair, whether it's Micron, whether it's Google, whether it's Alphabet, whether it's IBM, whether it's VMware, and many others. Trillions and trillions of dollars. You know what's not on this list is Israel. Did you know that the largest department, the largest expense department in the United States of America, HHS, is run by someone who I think can barely think anymore, RFK Jr., and is basically being controlled by the NIH secretary, Jayanta Bhattacharya, who was born in India. Our largest expense department in the United States of America is run by an Indian national. Did you know that? Here's the bad news, okay? There's 5 people in India for every 1 American. And that includes Americans who are already Indian. We are massively outpopulated. Did you know that the biggest financial supporter of Israel after the United States is India? One of the biggest champions of Israel's efforts in Gaza is India. Why doesn't anyone mention this? I thought we cared about people in Gaza, But I guess if they're murdered with weapons and money, which come from India, it's okay. Why is that? One of the largest financial supporters in the Ukraine is India. Nobody seems to mention that. Wasn't there a Nazi flag or something going around in Ukraine? Doesn't the swastika symbol itself originate from India? And then let's get to the opioid epidemic, which has killed over 1 million Americans. A vast bigger number than the number of people that have died in Gaza. Vastly bigger. Most of the components of fentanyl do not come from South. They may run through South America, but they don't really come from China. They really come from India. And we have our Indian-born head of the National Institutes of Health, Jayanta Bhattacharya, unaware or unable to say why life expectancy in the United States of America went down. So we have Indian companies in America created by U.S. taxpayer dollars in many cases. U.S. patents, which were used to fund these companies, run by India. We have our health institutes run by India right now, all of them incapable of understanding why Americans, mostly men, white and black, have died young from its drug epidemic. They won't even say it. And then they blame it on China. Of course they blame it on China. Not going to be very good PR to say it comes out of India. They have started a campaign to blame it on China. And this picture, by the way, was put together by an Indian American who was proud. This was a sign of pride and superiority that most tech companies right now are being run by Indian Americans. And oh, by the way, not Pakistani even. Not Saudi. Mostly Indian. Kind of makes sense because India seems to be in a conflict of sorts with Pakistan, which Israel also supports. Money to Israel is used for Israel to then buy weapons in India, which is then used to fund operations against both China and Pakistan. And in fact, right now, the money that's going to most citizen journalists who are saying they're trying to expose the truth about Israel, it's really just a front to get the U.S. to disconnect from it, to divide the United States internally, politically, to lead to social unrest, to deceive the actual origins of COVID. And most of the origins of COVID came out of white papers that came out of universities and military intelligence out of India. Even Lee Meng-Yen herself, her husband, and her father-in-law, where are they from again? I don't like having this particular angle, but the green light has already been lit. The Democrat Party in the United States had said everyone from Russia can be distrusted. And now the Republican Party is like everyone who's Jewish. I know they're trying to get into, well, Israel's not really Jew. Let's be totally honest. That's bullshit. Most of the feelings that Republicans or conservative people are being encouraged to feel is hatred about Jewish people. It is what it is. But they won't allow it to come out. The mayor of New York City is really more Indian than he is Muslim. It's not about Islam. And they're trying to get Americans to think right now that the young mayor of New York City is a sign that Jews are supporting radical Islamists taking over the United States of America. Instead of saying, no, it's a sign that India right now has power in the United States of America. 600 million people in India could die tomorrow. There would still be 3 people in India for every person in the United States of America. And the fact that the Indians that are in the United States are by far and away, the highest per earning family group. By far and away. If you are black, white, Hispanic, whatever those things mean, because there's a lot of gray areas in the United States, we're all Americans, you're getting bent over a barrel right now. And you're being offered a 50-year mortgage. Do you think anybody in this pie chart right there, do you think anybody in that chart right there is having to get a 50-year mortgage? No. They are making money by the millions or the billions, and they're living in the United States, probably mostly tax-free, making sure that intellectual property goes overseas. Not one person doing the Charlie Kirk investigation hunt for truth is able to get any further than being mad at Trump, being mad at Masons, being mad at Mormons, or being mad at Jews. Did you notice that? Not one person has gotten any further than being mad at Masons, Mormons, Jews, or Israel, or Trump. They have gotten no further, completely overlooking the fact that I believe Charlie Kirk was starting to get a little bit restless about the United States participation for the benefit of India in military operations against Pakistan. Not one person has been able to articulate that. Now, I'm not saying that is why Charlie Kirk was killed, or I can't say with certainty that is why Charlie Kirk was put into protective custody because he was going to be killed. And I shouldn't have to say this. I follow the money. I shouldn't have to say that. That's sort of like saying, I try not to lie. Anyone that says, I follow the money over and over again is really saying, you should believe me, I won't lie to you. Why would someone say that? And by the way,
if you are compelled to think,
I'm lying to you. Look at my evidence. Look at this evidence. It's not my evidence. It's not like I created these truths. This is just the information that's out there. You can see the seeds of this going back to 9/11. When you look at the head of search for HHV6 and chronic fatigue, Jarim Ablashi, when you look at the head of the Salk Institute, which was Inder Verma, who had his whatever thing. He was probably among the top supporters of Robert Malone. I think Robert Malone is part Indian. And the head of Vical Corporation, the company that nobody will ever say. No one will ever say VICAL, even though they were working on the plasmids for the anthrax vaccine related to 9/11, even though they've been in business nonstop all the way up to October of 2019. Started again by an Indian entrepreneur. No one will ever mention any of these things. Nobody will ever mention these things. And the fact, the really bizarre fact, that it was Richard Verma who was the associate of Uma Abedin, going all the way back to 9/11, who provided the legal counsel near Johnstown, Windber, Pennsylvania, working with Representative Murtha, regarding that cancer research center, the Windber Center, which is now the Patrick Soon-Shiong Center. The only center of excellence for the United States military, Walter Reed. The only one, a place where you go to, you'll be greeted with an empty parking lot. Which really means it was set up by Robert Malone, by Richard Verma, and by and using a Nigerian immigrant. Again, we're back to another connection with India, to basically have a data pipe connected into the U.S. military to collect information about U.S. military and cancer. Now, if you're godless and if you worship the sun, by the way, the swastika is a hat tip to the sun. It's sun worship. There are no morals or values to be extracted by worshiping the sun. You can worship the sun all day, get nice and warm, get a tan. The sun does not teach you right from wrong. The sun does not teach you, hey, maybe you shouldn't engineer an opioid epidemic to kill people, to create the perception of a deadly novel virus. Maybe that's a bad idea. The sun does not give you morality. The sun does not give you values of how to treat your fellow man. The sun is just the sun. It's just a lot of material making a shitload of heat, warming people up. That's all the sun is. The sun is what was on the flag of Nazi Germany as the swastika. The swastika says you can kill as many people as you need to for the greater good. And the swastika seems to be tied to Ukraine and Nazi movements. The swastika, I think, is behind the India infiltration. I can't even believe I'm saying that right now. I'm not even sure they know. But this is where we're at, folks. Here we are. Pretty terrifying stuff. And nobody will say it. All they can do is say Jews, 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 Israel, Israel, Jews. So going back to George Soros, here we are again. But here we are. I don't even know what to do for the rest of the show. Regarding the opioids, not a mention in the world that the components are out of India. Even the ATF and the FBI could have discussions back in 2018 and 2019 that many of the precursors came out of India. But ever since then, ever since Biden got back into power, and now ever since Trump, with his army of Indian people around him, can't mention it anymore. And now we have other fake lying citizen journalists that want everyone focused on Israel and Jews, saying that the drugs come from South America. The drugs come from people in Venezuela. First of all, if there's not much money in fentanyl, sorry, there really isn't. The opioid epidemic in the United States is not because people want to make money selling drugs. There's no money in killing people. There's money in giving people a drug which will make them want more of the drug and live long. There's no money to kill people. However, there is financial incentive to kill people if you want to say, hey, the life expectancy is going down because of a contaminated vaccine, or the life expectancy is going down because of that deadly novel virus that came out of a cave in China. There is motivation to murder people to achieve other goals. And let me tell you what, how much money is it to create the perception that a deadly novel virus came out of China that killed young people? What, $3 million? $100,000? A hotel? How much money is that worth? Trillions. Follow the money. Follow the money.
Bits and pieces, I'm trying
This is an article from The Guardian, UK newspaper, from August 2nd of 1999. August 2nd of 1999. So about 2 years before September 11th, 2001. Little more than 2 years. And the title of it is Arms Inspector Launches a Savage Attack on United Nations Chief. It reads as follows. And again, this is in The Guardian, August 2nd, 1999. In a scathing account to be published today, the United Nations Chief Weapons Inspector accuses the United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan of seeking to destroy the multinational mission to dismantle Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. In a bitter account of his 2-year tenure, Richard Butler repeats the allegation that the former Russian Prime Minister Yevgeny Primakov was paid off by Baghdad to protect Iraqi interests. But Mr. Butler offers no new evidence for the claim, which has been fiercely denied by the Russian government, citing only, quote, intelligence reports from an outstanding source, unquote. Today's article, in the first issue of the new United States magazine Talk, is Mr. Butler's first published assessment of his time as chairman of the United Nations Special Commission on Iraq, UNSCOM, since he resigned from his post on July 1st. It portrays the international effort to disarm Saddam Hussein as fatally undermined by divisions in the Security Council and by Mr. Kofi Annan's perceived lack of commitment. How is it that a magazine on its very first issue is running a story of such international significance? That's almost impossible. It goes on to read, Mr. Butler accuses Kofi Annan of papering over Baghdad's repeated deception in the interests of diplomacy. The Australian diplomat writes, Richard Butler, I guess, he writes, Kofi Annan and his immediate staff sought to hand Saddam Hussein the greatest possible prize, the destruction of UNSCOM. That's the United Nations weapons inspection. I forget exactly what how you spell out the full acronym. Mr. Kofi Annan yesterday refused to comment on Mr. Butler's allegations, saying he wished the, quote, best of luck and success in whatever he does, unquote. His United Nations Communication Director, Shashi Tharoor, a name that, following the money from every other channel, it never yielded. All they could do was find George Soros over and over again, and Jews in Israel, and pedophiles and other stupidity, and Clinton Foundation and other nonsense. Kofi and Shashi Tharoor. And Shashi Tharoor is being quoted here in an article on August 2nd, 1999, regarding United Nations weapons inspections of Saddam Hussein, which, to be clear, we're not talking about nukes here. We are talking about chemical and, even more important, biological weapons. In a magazine called Talk, in the very first issue, a magazine which I believe was created with one purpose, to ensure that Hillary Clinton becomes senator of the state of New York. Because in 1999, it was starting to become clear that they did not have proper control over JFK Jr. I think JFK Jr. was not submitting to a Truman Show life that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was. John F. Kennedy Jr. was not. I'm not saying John F. Kennedy Jr. was a hero. I'm not saying he was going to save America. I don't know. But I think it's pretty clear if you look at the footprint of his life, he was not living in a Truman Show. I'm sure they tried, but he had fought it. And there's also a little bit of metadata that John F. Kennedy Jr. was not willing to yield to a purely socialist Democrat worldview. I think he had some fondness of the United States of America. I suspect. Again, could be totally wrong. But the hope, I believe, was that John F. Kennedy Jr. would be submissive enough to run as a Democrat, to run, and then to support, facilitate, sign off, and be a part of, act for whatever the September 11th, or I think it was actually going to be November or October 2001 operations were going to be. A planned biological terror attack on the United States itself, which would probably include crop dusters, which contained small improvised nuclear devices in them, which would be then said to be responsible for blowing up the World Trade Center afterwards. Sorry, I mean, all the data lines up. That's why the terrorists were trained on crop dusters. That is why Kurt Weldon of Pennsylvania talked nonstop about suitcase nukes, something he loves to forget about right now. Anyways, going back to the story, here's Shashi Tharoor of India, the communications director and right-hand man of Kofi Annan, is being quoted in this article. An article which is being sourced from Talk Magazine, a magazine which was funded predominantly by Harvey Weinstein and Miramax and Harvey Weinstein's brother Bob Weinstein, a magazine whose chief conservative editor was Tucker Carlson. A magazine which wasn't even a thought in early 1999, but it became clear that JFK Jr. wasn't going to do the job. They had to get Hillary Clinton prepared to run for senator, to become senator, to control the seat, to allow things to happen. Probably why John F. Kennedy Jr. was assassinated. I believe he was assassinated. I don't think that was an accidental plane crash. Hillary Clinton was probably not in on that assassination. Oh, by the way, the assassination of JFK Jr., you're allowed to think it was Hillary Clinton. In fact, I think they encouraged Hillary Clinton to file the paperwork 10 days before the plane crash so they could create a fake paper trail that Hillary Clinton was responsible for killing JFK Jr. Hillary Clinton probably did not want to become senator of New York State. That means she has to move. You got to find a new house. You got to clean out your basement. There's a lot of shit you need to do to move, okay? Moving is no fun when you're in your 50s or in your 60s. It's no fun. She had been first lady for 8 years. Look, I'm actually giving Hillary Clinton the benefit of the doubt here, okay? It doesn't seem likely that she would have really eagerly wanted to become a senator. When the more you think about it, it's because she had to. Matter of fact, I'll bet you if there was any of her blackmail, I'll bet you that would have been a perfect example of it. So, here it is, Shashi Tharoor. Now it gets crazier because then it goes on to talk further about this Talk Magazine article, and it references a former United Nations weapon inspector, Scott Ritter. And Scott Ritter comes back in COVID-19. Now, let's fast forward 26 years. Now, let's see, this is 2000. Let's fast forward 22 years. 21 years, I guess. 9/11 has happened. 21 years has passed. Tucker Carlson becomes one of the main voices on the conservative side about COVID-19. Harvey Weinstein in 2017 becomes the face of the Me Too movement. Harvey Weinstein was actually one of the first Americans to get COVID-19 and live. Go to earlycovidsurvivors.com, earlycovidsurvivors.com to get the rest of the list. In fact, also, possibly one of the very first Americans to get it, aside from Snohomish County man, was Gwyneth Paltrow. Not only did Gwyneth Paltrow was one of the first people to get COVID and live, Gwyneth Paltrow was also the first person to get the new disease, which came out in the movie Contagion, which was released September 11th, 2011, exactly 10 years after 9/11. And Gwyneth Paltrow was also on the cover of the very first Talk magazine. I mean, let's just keep going further, okay? Scott Ritter is one of the main voices involved in saying that COVID-19 is a biological weapon that came out of China, not India. And let's just keep going further, talking about the Talk magazine, other stories they broke, including seeding a story in November, or I should say October of 2001, meaning it was available long before then, that Americans were involved in deals where they were providing weapons and even components to create small nuclear explosive devices to terrorists. And Shashi Tharoor's own son writes one of the more well-read articles in the Washington Post in February 2020, saying that it was definitely a biological event. It's definitely a real virus, and it's also it's the Chernobyl of China. So Shashi Tharoor, years later, is controlling the narrative. Now Shashi Tharoor is one of the main voices and saying, Americans need to stop their H-1B visa battle against India, and that, relations between Israel and India have never been better. 22 years later, almost every person that's alive anyways in this article is still of consequence. Biological weapons, Iraq, Kofi Annan, United Nations, India. It's also many people, Shashi Tharoor's side, of course, that are in a book that came out on September 9th, 2001, called Germs. Kofi Annan and Shashi Tharoor were standing side by side. You can't make this up. Side by side with Klaus Schwab, getting out of a cab in New York City on the morning of 9/11 and looked up and watched one of the planes hit the towers. Now, if people weren't so gung-ho about the meltdown of the United States of America over Israel, this is what people would be reading. They would going, wow, this Germs book is one of the biggest smoking guns of all time about 9/11. They would be going, wow, there's more to learn about 9/11 by understanding it as a potential biological terror event. Wow, it's amazing. When you follow the money, you'll realize that the biggest pile of money was actually the Human Genome Project and attempts to roll out experimental DNA vaccines, in particular anthrax vaccines. Wow. I don't like to say follow the money. I'm saying follow the money right now as part of this 5G warfare thing, because it's what I have to say. It's what everyone else says, I guess. I can find, if it wasn't for censorship, there's a lot more of these articles out there right now. Yeah, follow my George Soros and how America is really controlled. How is America being really controlled right now? Well, you have to follow the money. What's the biggest project right now of all time, the longest running, more money invested in it than any other scientific endeavor in history? It's going to be the Human Genome Project. It's going to be understanding cancer. It's going to be life extension and so on and so forth. And the most valuable resources is people. And right now, the United States is worth an enormous pile of money because we have, a couple hundred, we're not all mixed in the United States. Not all Americans are mixed race, but many of us are. We're not going to be around forever. It's a great, big, really valuable pile of money. And India's future is strong. Demographically, they're still strong. Someone in the chat earlier mentioned Henry Kissinger. Kissinger did something particularly nasty. It has been said in India, by the way. And I found, by the way, George Soros has been in the news in India recently. I should play that one as well before I change the subject too much. But I will say, even though Kissinger has been said to have been racist towards Indians, why did Henry Kissinger go to India, go to China, and encourage China to have a one-child policy, something which has created a demographic catastrophe, which may be the end of China? Yet Henry Kissinger didn't go to India and encourage India to have a one-child policy. There's 8 people being born in India right now today for every one person being born in China. China is doomed. I'm not worried about China because they're doomed. They are demographically doomed. Russia is even worse. South Korea is a catastrophe. Taiwan is almost not even going to exist in 100 years. I mean, you can talk about all the money and the gold and the intellectual property you want. A country doesn't exist if its people no longer exist. If there's no babies, the country disappears. It's that simple. I'm not saying that every country should be focused on just babies, but the reality is that if there are no children, there's no future. It's so simple. India has a future right now. Their birth rate has slowed down, but India does future. China doesn't. China is doomed. They're going to have all those cities, and they're going to have 35% of the population or 40% of the population, and even that percentage of the population is going to be mostly elderly. China's doomed. That's China's future right now. That's not India's future. That's China's future. That's also South Korea's future. It's going to be Japan's future as well. Russia's future. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee. That has happened. People don't believe it's happened because Tom Cruise still looks at the same age. It's a weird thing to throw out there, but it's true. People don't actually believe it. Take a drive across America. Half our cities, small towns, are dead. They're gone. It's just grass and weeds. So, let's see if I can find this video, which is fairly recent. And again, as I was saying yesterday, if you want to solve the Charlie Kirk assassination, nobody's talking about his comments. It's only Charlie Kirk's comments about Israel that matters. Really, Bibi Netanyahu did it? Really? I thought we were supposed to follow the money. I thought we were supposed to follow the population, follow the money, and follow the future. And there's Shashi Tharoor, 20-something years after 9/11. Actually, this would be 25 years after 9/11, finally visiting the memorial, apparently only inspired by probably false flag terror attacks said to be from Pakistan, and maybe momentum that's in the United States from Trump and Charlie Kirk that seem to be not 100% on board with giving India everything it wants. Why does a country with 5 to 6 times as many people in the United States, that has the highest per family income in the United States, if you break down ethnicity, that is on track to have the world's largest GDP, that already controls the NIH, that has more nationals in U.S. political power than any other nation, why do they need special status for H-1B visas? We have Americans right now that are desperate for $2,000 checks. Meanwhile, the majority of our big tech companies are run by Indian nationals. And no one can say this. You know why? Because they're paid money to focus on Israel. Israel's the boogeyman. There's probably 10 or 20 provinces in India that most people never heard of that are way bigger than Israel. Israel is nothing in the global scheme of things. It's just a proxy. Sorry. I know it's a mean thing. It may sound mean, but it is what it is. So let's see if I can find the more recent video that was put out about George Soros and India. Let's see here. Soros, India. So I guess George Soros is attacking the Modi government. This stuff is a couple years old. I'm looking for something that's a little bit more recent, though. Let's see. I might actually. This is the one here.
Political showdown. You must have come across a name consistently, and that is of George Soros. Who is George Soros? Why is he in the center of controversy, a global figure with regard to India's internal affairs? And specifically, why is someone, and possibly how can he, interfere in India's matters? That's the charge. Let's take a look at this explainer coming.
By the way, it's easy to imagine because an Indian national right now is running the National Institutes of Health in the United States of America. And if he had the interest of Americans at heart, if he was like, wow, life expectancy is going down because of the opioid epidemic, I'd be like, hey, you know what? This Jayanta Bhattacharya seems to be doing a lot of good for the United States of America. Instead, we have an Indian national right now who is lying about the largest loss of life event in the history of the United States of America. I want to repeat that. We have an Indian national in charge of the National Institutes of Health who is lying or totally incapable of talking about the largest loss of life event in the history of the United States of America, and is even willing to mischaracterize it as being from a deadly novel virus that came out of a laboratory in China, as proved by Li Mengyan and married to her Indian intelligence family. Yeah, that's right. You got that one right. Or other Indian intelligence, or it's a bad vaccine. It's a contaminated vaccine. So I'm perfectly capable of understanding, how people around me and in my own family can be murdered by lies from representatives from other countries. Get used to it.
If you've been following the news lately, chances are you would have come across the name George Soros. So who exactly is George Soros, and why is he in the center of a controversy in a country that's far, far away from his? Born in 1930, George Soros is a Hungarian-American hedge fund tycoon and philanthropist. He escaped the Nazi occupation of Hungary and moved to the UK in 1947. To fund his studies at the London School of Economics, Soros worked as a railway porter and waiter. In 1973, George Soros launched his hedge fund and became known for his successful currency trades, particularly his bet against the British pound in 1992, which is why he became known as the man who broke the Bank of England. Soros is considered to be one of the pioneers of the modern hedge fund industry. Soros has a net worth of $7.2 billion as of December 10, 2024. He leveraged the significant financial muscle to create the Open Society Foundations. What that is that it's a network of foundations of...
I want to highlight that the map here is India, Israel, Nigeria, Europe, United States, and some unspecific area in South America.
Partners and projects now in over 120
Egypt
countries.
also.
It's reported that Soros donated over $11 billion to philanthropic causes during the period from 1979 to 2011. But I know what you're all wondering. What's the India connect here? Well, Open Society began working in India in 1999, initially offering scholarships and fellowships to students to pursue studies and research at Indian institutions.
1999. Let's see. Oh, that's odd. That's the same time that we have one of the most visible people in all of India, Shashi Tharoor, right-hand man of Kofi Annan in the United States of America, working at the United Nations, controlling United Nations weapons inspections and so on and so forth. Of course, those are being also handled by a former weapons inspector, Scott Ritter, who comes back to us after 9/11. That's kind of odd. That the key people with respect to using HIV technology as a gene delivery backbone when it comes for legal oversight of the Winber Lab, which is collecting cancer data on the U.S. military that is about to be injected potentially after a large-scale biological terror attack with an experimental DNA vaccine for anthrax, all run by India. That's interesting. 1999, same time that George Soros starts to send money to India. I'm not saying that they're connected. But I'm capable of throwing this stuff out there. No one else will.
Its Soros Economic Development Fund is also an active social impact investor in India, supporting smallholder farmers and businesses while improving access to healthcare, schooling, and financial services.
And of course, the Hillary Clinton emails. Everyone loves to talk about the Pakistani man of mystery, the mystery man of Pakistan, the mystery man, mystery man, Pakistani mystery man, Imran Owan. Why would Pakistan do it? It seems as though if we were to follow the money, there's far more money for Israel. I mean, for India. Way more money. And
but there's a
but before we get to that, I want to throw another one out there. You ever hear of this this young Hispanic Puerto Rican, American Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Some people may have heard of her. She's said to be the next big thing. She's all over media, of course. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let's see if I can pull that one up here. Yes, there we go. Beautiful. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You know, the story of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is she was ambitious. She was a bartender. She was inspired by local politicians. Where did the money come from? I thought we were supposed to follow the money. Where did the money come from? Oh, is it possible that her money came from India? Is it possible that tech money is behind Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Saikat Chakrabarti. Born in India. They say born in the United States, but I mean, come on, let's be honest, okay? Born in another Indian person. Made his money through Stripe. He was an engineer at Stripe, so there you get your $50 or $100 million, and then he gets put on the AOC campaign. And this is also the same guy, by the way, who is going to get the seat from Nancy Pelosi. Everyone right now is yelling and screaming about Nancy Pelosi and all of her misgivings and crimes and so on. She's going to step down at the end of this next term, and it's going to be taken over by money from India. How many seats in the United States Congress are going to be run by people born in India? Where are the black Americans who are going, you know what? Out of a country of 330 million people, approximately 14% of the United States of America are African Americans. It would be 22% if there wasn't so much rampant abortion being encouraged in the black community. But that's another story altogether that they should be outraged about. Where's that representation in the United States Congress? What's the threshold? What if 40% of Congress someday is run by people who are born in India? What, are we not allowed to say, you know, that's kind of odd? Americans can't say it? I had a pretty good career. I don't have $50 million in the bank that I could use to run for office. What a gift that is. How easy it is to have people come in, to put them in the position in companies that you know you're going to go up in value, have the companies go up in value, they have the shares which are already given to them, and then they turn around and have hundreds of millions of dollars. They own the companies. They can use the stock to pay for all the advertising and all the press they want. Meanwhile, Americans are running around totally divided, as Owen Schroyer said, thinking about Israel. Anyways, getting back to George Soros.
Reason that it's in the midst of controversy. George Soros and his organizations have seen a slew of controversies surrounding business groups and financial institutions. George Soros has become a villain of sorts for some in India for the persistent India bashing that's done by NGOs funded by him. Therefore, some suspect him to harbor hidden agendas. Soros also has been a vociferous critic of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and has been vocal about his mission, or his dream as he called it, to make democracy flourish again in India. This is what he said, and listen in to what he said in 2023 as well.
Now, this is interesting, and now I'm starting to get an insight here. Okay, I'm starting to get a very interesting insight, because Soros says that democracy is not flourishing in India. Soros is saying that. And Soros is coming out against, very specifically, Prime Minister Modi. This is very interesting, okay? Now, Prime Minister Modi, I can't trust him any further than I can throw him. And although oftentimes Modi is aligned with this other long-time, and up until Modi, the most followed person on the internet from India, Shashi Tharoor, okay? Shashi Tharoor historically has a somewhat combative relationship with Modi. Shashi Tharoor is by some said to be the opposition to Prime Minister Modi. Shashi Tharoor says there needs to be more democracy in India. We need to get rid of the aristocracy. We need to get rid of the families, which are always in power. Of course, Shashi Tharoor, I mean, you listen to him, he's really more English and Oxford than he is Indian. He obviously has Indian ancestry, but he's not 100%. And his education level, his culture, his style, and everything else, it's just not very Indian. It is what it is. But he is one of the most powerful people there. So now you get into everyone and their dual allegiances. But really, so is he really anti-India? His son, Alex Soros, just married Uma Abedin. And although Americans love to focus on the fact that Uma Abedin has, I think her dad was Pakistani, her mom is from India. And Abedin herself culturally is really more India, maybe. Okay, so again, trying to marry into India, I don't really understand exactly everything that's going on, but these are very compelling, interesting conversations that nobody right now is harboring. The only thing that's being put out there is pedophiles, Epstein, Israel, Jews, and now the new craze, thanks to Candace Owens, that American backstabber, Candace Owens. The new thing is to call all Christians Zionists. When did that start? Christian Zionists. What? So she's kind of suggesting all Christians, except Catholics, are Zionists. No wonder why people are all fractured. There's no synergy right now within the United States at all. At least not within the Conservative Party. There never has been, because it's naturally a disjointed. People should be focused on what's right in front of them first. Way of life and ideology. But holy Toledo, it is worse than ever before.
Modi and business tycoon Adani.
This is February 2023.
Their fate is intertwined. Adani Enterprises tried to raise funds in the stock market but failed. Adani is accused of stock manipulation and his stock collapsed like a house of cards. Modi is silent on the subject, but he will have to answer questions from foreign investors and in Parliament.
It's because of these kind of comments that many accuse George Soros of threatening to meddle with the electoral process in India. Now, there's a big political fight also over this, as the BJP claims that George Soros is connected to the Forum of Democratic Leaders in Asia Pacific. It's the FDLAP Foundation. Now, they allege that this group is advocating Kashmir secession from India. And then they've put out a screenshot of this particular forum, this foundation, in which Sonia Gandhi is mentioned as co-president, which is why they're saying that there's a collaboration aimed at undermining India's sovereignty. Now, the BJP has also gone after Rahul Gandhi repeatedly using the Soros link, saying that he is leveraging Soros-funded organizations to criticize the Indian government, particularly on economic issues, particularly the Adani Group. And here another name comes up. OCCRP. Now, this is the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. Headquartered in Amsterdam, the OCCRP is a global network of investigative journalists with staff on 6 continents. It's known for investigations like the Panama Papers and the Pegasus spyware use as well. It's worth noting here that Soros's Open Society Foundations is one of OCCRP's funders. So there's a direct link there. And an OCCRP report in August 2023 alleged that Gautam Adani's family had invested millions of dollars in its companies via opaque Mauritius funds. This triggered, of course, a huge controversy. You had the Adani Group rubbishing the claims and called them a mere rehash of allegations made by Hindenburg back in January 2023. The BJP has highlighted these reports by OCCRP, claiming they were designed to destabilize India's economy and fuel political unrest. Rahul Gandhi had also referred to the OCCRP report to lash out at Adani and Prime Minister Modi, which is what's led again to the BJP alleging that there's a link.
What a mess. Wow. What a couple of weird videos being suggested here, too. What a absolute catastrophe right now that we have to deal with. I wish I could just give you answers on exactly where all this. And by the way, if George Soros is worth what, $6 billion, $8 billion, $10 billion, that's a lot of money. It's definitely money to be rich for generations. It's definitely breakaway wealth. It's definitely money where you can influence things. But compared to other people that are on the list, there's a lot of people in the United States that are worth a lot more than $10 billion. We have someone worth hundreds of billion. I think Bezos right now is almost a trillionaire or something like that. That means that Bezos is 100 times wealthier than that even. So Soros, yeah, he's got a lot of money, but that's not enough money to control the world. It's enough money to get people to think that you are one of the people pulling the strings. But Soros reports to other people as well, it's boy, I wish I had some more profound way of being able to wrap that up. I don't. All I know is like, wow, what a mess. What a mess. I certainly can't figure it all out on my own. All I know is everything out there that right now is nonsense. CANDACE Owens is one of the biggest liars and traitors, even if she doesn't know it right now. She's being used to spread some of the biggest lies in the United States of America right now. And it's it's just too bad that some people are working so hard to promote her as a hero. Really is too bad. Makes me think that they're probably liars and traitors as well. Oh, well. I have a headache. Wonder why that is. You know why? I know why. Sometimes I have my glasses on. I use them to keep my hair up throughout the day, and the sides pinch my head when I put the headphones on, and I just forget about them. Let me see here. Let me read some comments for a little bit here. Wasn't it India Muslim in China in 2020 that was capturing, then camping, and the world needs to boycott China? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell with all the deceptions and the lies out there. It's really hard to tell, but it never comes up. If we were being encouraged as an American, okay. And by the way, I totally agree with everything that Jonathan Cooey said the other day about white. We need to drop this whole white thing in the United States of America. I'm an American. If we were told that, here's elements about Israel that are infiltrating and impacting the United States, and here's the elements of China and Russia and England and India and so on, okay? the infiltration, the concerns, and some, even if it wasn't really 100% correct, some way to at least to make it appear, at least to give the impression that there is attempts to utilize and to steal United States intellectual property and wealth from various angles. If there was some perception of balance to it, I would be way less motivated right now to have the angle that I've had. There is no country that has more elected officials right now in the United States of power than India. How can you show a map of most of the tech companies in the United States right now are run by Indian nationals? The National Institutes of Health is run by Jayanta Bhattacharya. There's not a scrap of criticism about this. Not one channel other than Jonathan Cooey. And the wonderful part about that is, at least ancestrally, Jonathan Cooey has some Indian ancestry to it. That's the funny part about it. In fact, Children's Health Defense kicked out their only person of color when they asked Jonathan Cooey to move along. Did you know that? A liberal organization kicked out their only person of color in the United States. That's awesome. And not one person cares. But anyways, no one will give that a chance. Pete says, all this induced chaos is to train the AI machine to do social engineering stuff. The computers will learn some things, but computers learn based upon how we tell them to learn. What can happen is people can write algorithms that tell computers what to learn and how to learn, and then manually or scripts we can encourage people to say and do things, which will feed data into the algorithms that people have designed. Of course, I'm a believer in using computers to do things, to handle large quantities of information and batch to back data up and so on. But the term AI, I just think is just, I don't know. It is what it is. Computers can only learn to do things that people write algorithms that tell computers how to do it. Lots of these players go to schools in Britain. That is true. Britain is definitely behind us, or the old Britain. The whatever the ancestry is of Britaners, English people, however you want to call them, they're screwed. But yes, and a lot of the degrees, there has been much said that the quality of the education is really not that strong out of India. It's really not. They have these degree mills. It's very different. If you ever went to if you were in a competitive environment in the United States of America, if you saw science and math engineers and PhDs out of China, linguistically they can struggle, but they can smoke people. I mean, they work. China has worked people really hard. I haven't felt the same way from India. I've been out of the industry for a while though. Yeah, George Webb said that the Wuhan, they were trying to hire people from Pakistan. Again, it's always Pakistan. Pakistan ISI, Pakistani mystery man, Pakistan stealing the secrets, Pakistan stealing the this, Pakistan stealing the that. When you believe that the only reason the World Trade Center came down is because there's Muslim extremists who believes in their religion and their faith so strongly that they eagerly leap at the opportunity to commit suicide and kill people and blow things up, and that the buildings blew up because they had a lot of gas in them or something, gas in the planes. This irrational, or I should say, this on-grounded fear of Muslim extremists has been seeded that I've fallen victim to as far as the brainwashing goes. So it's easy as an American, or I should say Americans have been encouraged to hear Pakistan and think Muslim extremists, and then simply go along with all of these bad things. Now, if that were to be true, okay, but then when you start looking, like, no, there's no way those buildings came down because someone planted explosives in them. It's incidental that a plane hit it. At worst, there were already explosives that were triggered by the plane. At worst, those buildings came down because there were tons of explosives in them. Now, unless Muslim extremists also planted the explosives, that means that radical Islam has nothing to do with most of the events of 9/11. So why are we talking about Pakistani intelligence? Why is it that why is it one of the biggest fuels of the Pakistani mystery man is and the ability to steal secrets? Okay, Imran Awan. It's all about Pakistan, right? According to George Webb, it's all Pakistan. Well, if Nancy Pelosi simply allowed the secrets to get out by using Indian IT subcontractors or subcontractors of intelligence backgrounds connected with India, doesn't that make a whole lot more sense? In particular, she's going to be conceding her seat to an Indian national whose money was probably behind AOC. And instead of any of this getting the light of day, we have George Webb constantly saying Pakistan, which is exactly what George Webb would do if the money was coming from India. It's just like Shashi Tharoor keeps saying. Pakistan, he is very much against Pakistan. He's the loudest voice in saying we need to be standing up against Pakistan, or I should say India's standing up against Pakistan. He's also one of the biggest, behind the scenes anyways, endorsers of Israel. And then you hear all the way back to 9/11, Shashi Tharoor was sharing his concerns about U.S. relations with Pakistan. And Pakistan was the only country that was ever kicked out of the League of this League of Nations, the Commonwealth of Nations connected to the British Crown. They were kicked out around 1999 all the way to 2003. What was that all about? What, to create doubt that Pakistan was behind 9/11? Or I don't know. I don't have all the answers for you. Sometimes I'm just so mad that nobody is making any progress out there. When after someone puts out a Substack, okay, there should be progress. You should be able to look back and go, wow, look at how much we've progressed. If I were to say that I wrote a Substack or did a video 8 years ago that shows that we've been right for 8 years, what that means is that we've made no progress for 8 years. One of the best ways that someone could discredit themselves, again, in addition to always saying, I'm telling the truth, or follow the money, is to say, wow, look at my past. I've been right for 8 years. What, you haven't learned anything in 8 years? 10 years? You haven't learned anything. Now, I can show that we've been on the right path. I didn't understand the significance of this book when I first read it. I knew it was suspicious. It's taken me years to understand the significance of this book. And in fact, one of the beautiful things on this topic here is that now that we're talking about India and Shashi Tharoor and Kofi Annan and UN weapon inspectors, George Soros, of course, big supporter of few global democracies, etc. I keep going back to chapters in this book and go, wow, I missed things. Although I've been on the right track, okay? I've made a lot of mistakes also. And I'm telling you that if you're not willing to make mistakes, if you're not willing to trip once in a while, you'll never get anywhere. One of the worst things that someone could say is, I've been right for 10 years. That means you haven't learned anything in 10 years. That means that everything you're saying right now is exactly where it was 10 years ago. So the Pakistan stuff, it's time to start seeing through that nonsense right now. And wow. So anyways, yeah, the guy that killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Oh, the guy that killed Osama bin Laden is now amplifying Jew hatred on Twitter. Is that for real, Shimmer? Yeah, Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan. But he was killed in Pakistan in an area that is wooded and very close to the Kashmir border. It's an odd... whatever happened to Osama bin Laden, he was killed a long time ago, or if he's still alive, I don't know. That whole story just doesn't make it. It's not believable. That's just not believable. It's terrible. It is terrible to have such doubts about a story which should be considered a heroic and a success story out of the United States military that gets crapped on all the time. I feel terrible, but I have major questions about the nature of that entire story. Osama bin Laden equals Jeffrey Epstein. They might be together right now. Who knows? You can drive from Abbottabad to Azad, Kashmir in about 3.5 hours. Probably even less than that, Pete. It's very close to the border. But yeah, he does bring up a point. It's not far away from India. It would be theoretically pretty easy to have some friendly people, stage the whole thing from India. I think that's the point. And it's never come up before. I mean, you have between Umar Abedin and Obama and the rest of the staff, it's like, where are the allegiances here with anybody? And I'm glad that the video that we just watched highlights that George Soros' involvement in India shows that he is against Prime Minister Modi. Now, Prime Minister Modi, of course, looking out for India, and again, India's. I encourage all countries to try to expand and to be successful, and look, if other countries are full of losers, take advantage of it. I guess, rising tides, whatever, all boats, etc. But it does highlight that even that all countries, they have these internal conflicts between the global powers and the local powers, and Tharoor, I mean, just listen to him, How many people from India does he really represent? I'm doing more ums and ahs right now because I'm not sure exactly what direction to take this in next. It does make you mad. Same with those idiotic MFM. I know what that is. Heroes. Okay, so the last story that I'm going to bring up, a little bit of a tangent here. But it has been announced that India has a new weapon available. And it is the India supersonic missile. It was actually a news story that I thought just broke this morning. Inside India's new terror threat, ricin doctors and weapons. No, that's not the one I wanted. India unveils Mach 8 hypersonic missile that no one can stop.
India is racing towards a new frontier in missile technology. Work on a scramjet engine is progressing well, and sources say the country is on track to field a hypersonic cruise missile that could redefine the battlefield. Project Vishnu, still under review by the Cabinet Committee on Security, chaired by PM Narendra Modi, marks India's first...
Okay, I want to go back and look at these headlines here. So this new hypersonic missile, 3 times faster than the world's fastest cruise missile. India IL's 10,000 kilometer per hour hypersonic missile under Project Vishnu. We are among a smart audience. I mean, I don't like that, but let's just say a critical thinking audience. Okay, you are probably familiar with how things evolve, right? Whether it comes to think of drag racing, okay, cars going faster and faster. Think of maximum speeds, land speed records. Think of the evolution of airplanes, of flight. The advancement of cell phones. Okay. You know that things increase in capability over time. The Wright brothers figured out how to fly, right? They figured out finally how to get in the air and stay in the air for 20 or 40 seconds or something like that. Which was like, okay, so that once you're there, then you can get it maybe up to a minute, and then maybe there's 5 minutes. Then you have to figure out how to turn, and there's there's incremental pieces of design evolution and new problems that come in with every step of the way of increasing the technical capabilities of these of flight, or with drag racing, right? There was the first car to get to do a 10-second quarter mile, then the 8-second quarter mile, and the 6. Now they're into the 3s. No one's going to show up tomorrow with the drag strip and say, "Hey, we've got the quarter mile drag strip, top fuel, down from 3.4 seconds or whatever it is, down to 0.7 seconds." Nobody's going to. This concept that these weapons can just pop up and be 2, 3, 4, 5 times faster. There's no evolutionary steps. I'm not a physicist, and I'm not going to say that it's impossible to go that fast. I don't know, okay? I'm not a rocket scientist. But just hearing that something went from this speed to several times faster. It's like the moon missions. I can't prove that nobody walked on the moon, but I can highlight, as you can highlight, that, wait a second, we went through all that effort just to figure out how to get off the ground. And then with 2 more attempts, we were suddenly driving an electric Jeep around on the surface of the moon, and we took off from the moon. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to do that. I can't prove that, but I can highlight that it is really suspicious to be able to make such a massive technological leap on the very first try, given how hard it was just to get off the Earth's surface. It's hard to believe. And usually when you see these ridiculous technological leaps being, you know what, another one is the nuclear bombs. We went from the Chicago pile where in 1942 they figured out how to get 2 volts of electricity out of a massive pile of uranium. We went from that to knowing how to blow up a city. There was no in between. It's not like we went from then to 5 volts, then 8 volts, and then 20 volts, 100 volts, 1,000 volts, a little bit of heat, a little bit more heat, a bomb that could maybe do a little bit of boom, and then, 500 pounds, 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds. No, we just went from 2 volts to 100 kilotons. That's it. There's no in between. And I always look at these massive technological leaps with a lot of skepticism. These missiles are being described as so fast you can't hear them coming, which makes sense if they're breaking the speed of sound, but so fast you'll almost never see them. Reginald says it would be a fireball. So if they're so fast you'll never see them, how do you even know they're real? Can you see where this is going? Now, what type of weapons are these things going to be delivering? Anthrax? They're going to be delivering small nukes. How is anyone ever going to be able to prove, if a large explosion happens, that it came from something that you can't see, that you can't hear, that you'll never videotape? If the White House were to blow up and there's a big mushroom cloud, how will we ever know if it wasn't just a bomb there? If we also are being told that there's a supersonic missile, a hypersonic missile that is so fast you can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't take pictures of it, you can't videotape it. It just happens. Do you see this? It is creating the backstory of nukes, of the perfect excuse. So, I'm telling you right now, you can start putting this into words. The next time there's a large explosion, they will no longer have to say that the options are no longer going to be it was a bomb there or here's a video of something carrying it. It can just be assumed it's a hypersonic missile. And I can already promise you that they're going to say that Pakistan probably stole the technology. Or something like that. Or they'll blame it on Israel. They'll blame it on Muslims, or they'll blame it on the Jews, which is perfect because Israel's covered either way. It's perfect. This is where it's going. I can already see it right now. It's just like the Twin Towers. Twin Towers never would have come down if there wasn't already a ton of explosives in them. Meaning, whoever hijacked the planes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the planes were real or not. If they were real, hey, I'm sorry that the people on the planes died. But the real story is who put the explosives in the Twin Towers. Not, hey, the Department of Defense allowed Pakistanis to hijack the planes. The real story is who put the explosives into the Twin Towers. All right, that's my little show for today. I can feel my voice tightening up. Good to see you guys here. Massive bullshittery. Another unexpected controlled demolition. It's coming, guys. It's coming. This is where this story is going. Very concerning that China and India are both promoting these stories right now. Big explosions are going to happen, and they're going to say no one's going to know where it came from anymore. My goodness. I don't know how to stop it other than all I know is to call it out and to put the ideas out there. That's the best we can do. That's the best we can do. At least it's something. Tell our friends. Boy, I feel a little frustrated today. I know we've made progress. I know we're making progress. But it does feel a little frustrating. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Thanks for watching A Weird Show. Thank you for all the support. And I will check you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Take care. God bless.